Welcome to the Creative Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lopez Jr. Follow us on Twitter at CreativeCoach47 and on YouTube at Creative Coaching Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks a bunch for listening. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Dr. Hernandez, if that's good for you, it's good for me.
Works for me, man.
We'll do Coach Hernandez as we go forward too. But you got to give that respect where it's due, man, because that wasn't easy to obtain that.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, I have a lot of respect for people who pursue their post-secondary education to that degree. I know I'll do it at some point. So good stuff, man. Now I want to ask you.
Get a second one.
What's that, brother?
I think I'm going to go back and get a second one.
Goodness gracious. Then what will we have to call you, right? I'll start off like I do every podcast, Coach. And how are you introduced to the game of basketball?
How was I introduced? I was introduced by my older brother. He's about 8 years older than I am. And I used to just want to follow him around. And he used to go to the courts in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And I remember the rec center named Shepherd Recreation Center. And he just used to go with his friends. And I was like, let me just go hang out. And I used to shoot around and just play. And then I started to walk to the courts, dribbling the ball. And middle school, I met some friends and we was playing basketball for fun. And that is actually how I got introduced to the game of basketball. Literally my older brother, who does not play basketball at all. He's a chef, but wow. He introduced me to the game of basketball.
Yeah.
It's taken me thus far when I was 8 years old. 8 years old. Yep, 8 years old. And I'm 42 as of yesterday. So
yeah, happy belated birthday, man. I saw that, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, he's cooking in a different way, right?
And, he is just cooking in a different way.
In a good way, right? And so, yeah, that's fantastic, man. I mean, I always ask that question because I like people to go back and think about the origin story, if you will. Like, how did I get here? Like, how did this all start? Because here I am, whatever level I'm at, and whatever kind of run I've gotten. You know, you played in college, so things like that. Like, how did I get here? And what started? And it's always a great question to go back and have to recall those great memories, man. Now, I want to ask you about your experience with how people coached you, man. What was that like for you coming up? What was your lens of the coaches that you had?
Well, it started out as just like I said, just kind of a how to say it, rec league, right? And at a middle school, and it was just like we were playing basketball in a small gym, and I remember the guy that it was an after school program, and his name was Mr. Spinner. And he used to just invite us to play basketball after school for like an hour. And the courts were so small, and they had the padded walls was like literally right where the courts were at. And so I remember just running, and we used to jump off the wall to dunk the ball at our height. We were like, I don't know, 4 feet, 4'11", and we used to jump off the rated pad and dunk the ball. And so, that was my first experience with like being coached, because it was like, don't do that, do this or do this, and pass the ball and pass and cut. And as I came out of middle school, I went to our neighborhood high school in Philadelphia, which is Overbrook High School, where Wilt Chamberlain played. And so, the coach there, his name was Ron Ford, and he was a dean of students there actually, and at the school. So he dealt with all discipline, behavior, and things like that for the school, the climate and culture. But he was also the coach. And I was always finding myself in trouble. I would always find myself in trouble. Somehow, some way I would be in trouble. And so I got put in school suspension because I tried to bring my beeper in the school in my shoe. And I got caught, and they gave me 1 day of in-school suspension. And after that, he was talking to me. He gave me a reflection packet, and he asked me to do it and asked me what some of my goals, what I liked. And I was like, I don't know what I like. And so after that, I tried out for the JV team at the time. And there was a coach named Mr. Powell who was really strict. He was like really strict. And like, he was like, you can't come to my tryouts unless your shirt is tucked in, and you have to fill out this, and you have to do this, and you have to be lined up on the wall at 3:29, or you're not going to be able to play, participate. And I remember going, and I snuck in there because when you're in school suspension, you're not supposed to be able to participate in any activities after school.
Anything, yeah.
So I snuck in there, and it was crazy because I was having a good time. I was playing, I was shooting the ball well. I didn't know how to shoot at that time, but I was shooting the ball well. I was making shots. And the coach walked in, the head coach, the varsity program, which is also the ISS coordinator. He walked in, and I'm immediately like, oh my goodness, I am about to be in so much trouble. And so I ran out of there. I got out of there. And the next day he saw me. He said, I saw you yesterday in tryouts. And I said, oh, okay, yes, I did. I was. I'm sorry, and so forth, and things like that. He's like, you can't do that, but if you want to take the game serious, come past my office at lunch. Came past his office at lunch, and he knew that I can play from middle school because they do their due diligence. Middle school, they go to the high school, the middle schools, and see who can play, who would come to their feeder schools. And so I didn't know why. I was like, why is he always talking to me? So, but as a freshman, I didn't know. So I played JV my freshman year. And then at the end of the freshman year, I moved up to varsity. And I was one of two guys. And I was like, whoa, what is this? What's this going to foretell? And so I'm just used to playing street ball. But, after coming from the JV coach's team, he was very structured, very analytical about stats and teaching me about, when to cut, when not to cut, how to use my hands, play defense with my feet. And so when I got up there, I remember when I got in my first varsity game, I did not shoot. I did not dribble the ball at all. I remember Klay Thompson took like 15 dribbles to have like, I think it was like 50 points or something like that. I remember that. And so I remember it because when I got in my first varsity game, it was against the hardest team we've ever played, Strawberry Mansion High School, which had a guy named Maurice Rice, and he's a legend in Philadelphia as a scorer, and they were just beating us so bad. So coach put me in, and I remember it was the second quarter. I ended up having 27 points with taking like 6 dribbles because I was so nervous to dribble. I'm like, wait, these are grown men, and what am I going to do, and so forth. So after that, everything took off. We started spending summers together. He would invite me to his house. He would, make sure we played in summer league. He would take us out of town tournaments. And it was more of coaching is one thing, but it was more of teaching me life. And that's what I look at as what Mr. Ford brought to my life. And then I met my godfather through that playing AAU with a team called Mount Pleasant Bulldogs in Philadelphia. And his name is John Brown, and he was the director of that program. So he was also the coach. He took us, myself, my cousin, and my godbrother under his wing, and we all just played for the same team throughout our entire high school career, and always played together. And in our senior year, Mr. Ford asked me about my godbrother Mervin, and my cousin Sean was already at the school, and so we brought him over from another school, and we had a chance to be real special, but I would say I would still find myself in trouble. I still would find myself in trouble no matter how bad or, I didn't want to go to school. It was just things that I didn't understand why he was doing the things he was doing. And, now that I'm in my space, I'm like, oh, I definitely know why. I see it because now I'm doing the same thing. So that was my first experience with coaching. And college was a whole different level. I had a coach named Jerry Eves, who I was a walk-on at North Carolina A&T State University because I had some tragedy in my family. My mom died July 25th, 2003, which is the day before I graduated high school because I told you I used to get in trouble. So I graduated in summer school. And my mom died, and then I was like, the first place that I went to after that, I went to the basketball court right after, like literally 30 minutes after I saw her. And, I found that as my outlet. And so a coach had contacted my head coach and he asked him if I wanted to come to school in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So I immediately took advantage of it. I was 18 days later after my mom passed. I graduated from high school, and my birthday is July 26th. So
Yeah.
it's a lot going on. And my
Yeah.
coach is talking to me, my godfather's talking to me, who's my AAU coach, and my cousin, who I met at the funeral, who also played basketball in Philadelphia, came and got me, took me to school in Rock Hill, South Carolina, dropped me off. And I was supposed to play JUCO. I just couldn't get my mind together. The coach was a really good coach. His name was Coach Murray. Different type of coaching, but definitely a great coach. I never played for him, and then I left and went to North Carolina NT, in which I wasn't going to play. But a funny story about coaching, right? My best friend, as of today, was trying out for the team. He was a walk-on. He didn't take basketball serious, but he was trying out for the team at North Carolina A&T. And I'm like, hold on, this is a Division I program. What are we talking about here? I played basketball all my life, and this guy is in intramurals. Like, I used to have a work study job, and I ran the intramural games and set up the games. And I used to watch this guy play. I'm like, this guy averaged like 5 points a game in intramurals. Why is he trying out for the team? And so my girlfriend at the time went to the head coach and asked if I can get a tryout. Mind you, I come in there, I'm like, man, I'm not doing this. I come in the gym. My best friend today was in the gym working out with glasses on. You remember the basketball dribbling glasses?
The goggles, the rec specs. Oh, the ones that cover your eyes.
Yeah, once you cover your eyes, you couldn't look down. I'm like, what is he doing? Like, so he was working out, and so I got in the workout, and immediately the coach loved me. Told me to come to practice, and it was a frustrating time. It was frustrating at the point where he was. He wouldn't play me. And I was like, well, why won't he play me if he put me on the team? Why what is this about? And so him and I had a funny conversation recently. He was like, that's part of coaching, is seeing how much you want this. You weren't a scholarship player, and where you're going to quit, because we don't do quitters. And so I've had all different types of coaching, and it all came through different ways. And that's why I sit here today as a coach, because of people. It saved my life, to be honest. It saved me from a lot of things. So sorry to be long-winded, but it was remembering this stuff it's amazing to remember. I'm remembering now.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff, man. I mean, that's the whole goal when I ask these questions, man, is to like have this total recall, if you will. And then not only that, man, like you're talking about real life stuff. Like you lose your mom on the 25th, your birthday's on the 26th. Like just lot to deal with for a young man. And a young man who's still trying, like you said, find yourself. And here we are, fast forward to what, a couple of years now, and
22 years later.
Yeah, and you see where you're at, and you say to yourself, wow, man, I've done something. And like, because most people aren't going to gas you up all day long and say, hey, man, you're so great. You've done this. You won state championship. You've done all these things. They won't do that. But when you go back and think about who you used to be and who you are now, that gives yourself some credit, and maybe not a pat on the back, but just to say, man, I can still grow. The next 20 years, who knows what that looks like, right? So that's such a great kind of timeline that you went through, Coach. Now, I want to ask you, who or what influenced you to go into the coaching profession?
I graduated from college, and I had a bachelor's in psychology, and I was exploring opportunities to play overseas. So I had just got done playing in college, and I was like, what's next? And so I remember I talked to my cousin, and the same person that picked me up and took me to school, he told me I could come live with him for a year in Maryland, where I'm currently at. Not in his house, but I'm currently in Maryland. And he said, listen, you're not going back to Philadelphia. You can come live here for a year, get your feet wet, get your career started. If you don't go overseas, at least you can get a job and you can do the thing. So I ended up coming to live in Maryland with him and his wife and his kids. And I couldn't find a job. And so through an alumni network at North Carolina A&T through DC, I put out there that I was looking for a job, and I found a job as a substitute teacher at Woodrow Wilson High School in Washington, D.C. And I got there, and immediately, I just got done playing. So, the assistant principal that hired me introduced me to the dean of students, the head coach, who was also a dean of students, and immediately kicked it off. I'm a funny guy. They're funny people. But his name is Andre Williams. He he asked me if I wanted to do skill work with the kids because he knew I just got done playing and he needed some help with some of the stuff that he was doing.
Yeah.
And so he asked me would I help, and I said sure. I have nothing else to do. And I asked him was it a paid position? He said yeah. I'm like okay, cool. I could make some more money as a stipend and I'll be all right. So I got in there, and the guys, I'm like wow. They were taking to me. They were listening and they were trying to do the stuff that I was asking them to do at the level I was asking them to do. I used to ask them to get up at 5 a.m. and come to the pool and work out. And then we would do skill work. So we were creating a regimen and that they would follow because that's all I knew. In college, that's what you do. You get up in the morning, you work out, and then you go to skill work, then you go to practice. And so I was trying to recreate that because I didn't know what I was doing. And then he asked me to be the JV head coach. And so he introduced me to coaching basketball at Wilson High School. I spent 15 of my years in the coaching world there. I spent 8 years as the JV head coach, which he gave me the opportunity to be the JV head coach and also the associate head coach at Wilson High School. But he also let me do things like a lot of head coaches won't let their assistants meet with parents or put the summer plan workout together, run summer league, coach summer league. But he let me do that stuff. And so when he stepped down and asked me, did I want to coach? I was coming from being a JV head coach for 7 years or 8 years. And when I took over the varsity program, I remember him telling me that, this is your time. This, you know what you're doing. And he gave me all the confidence to be the head coach that I became, in which we, had some success at that level, at the high school level in DC in the city. We started with the city and then we won the state, in which we also had Nike come in and we became an elite high school. And I started going to camps through my relationships with other people. But I would say Andre Williams introduced me to high school basketball. But one of my really good friends, Jamal James, introduced me to the AAU basketball. And I don't even know if we call it AAU because the EYBL is the EYBL. And he introduced me to that, introduced me to the camps and just being around high-level kids all the time because he knew my goals. He was an assistant at St. John's at the time. I was a head coach at Wilson High School, and he saw how much time and effort I was putting into my program. And so those two people, I would say, introduced me to coaching basketball.
That's cool, man. I mean, like it's, you're covering a span of, like you said, 18 years and 10 years here, 8 years there, and it all adds up, right? It all adds up, and it goes by quick too. When you look back at it and you think about how you were given a chance, constantly people giving you a chance. I think that speaks to like, hey, a lot of us, I say all of us, we don't get anywhere we get without other people helping one way or the other.
Absolutely.
And coaches need to help coaches. That's just the way it works, man. And if we learn to do that, I mean, I think the fraternity of coaches gets not only bigger, but tighter.
Right.
We can all help each other at the end of the day. Now, talking about winning a state championship, things like that, that brings a lot of attention to your program, Nike, the EYBL circuit, all those things. Like, man, that's awesome stuff. Like people live their whole careers to get that, and you got that, and you're still pouring it on, doing what you do. And so, like in your coaching career, and you think about that, what was one of a coaching moment for yourself that you came to the realization, like, oh man, I'm not a player anymore. Like, oh shoot, this is happening. Was there something like that was kind of memorable when you first started coaching?
Yeah. We won when I took over as the head coach of the varsity program. I remember today we had 13 seniors. It was those guys that were there the year before, and I was like, I got two options here. I can bring my whole JV team up, or I can work with these kids and see what we can do. So I made a strategic plan. I made a 5-year plan, and I remember because my associate head coach at Bethel Sports Academy is one of the best player that was on that team with the 13 seniors. And we talk about the story all the time of, how we were put in a place where we only won 8 games that year. We won 8 games out of 35 games. And it was like, whoa, what is going on? Like, what are we doing here? But then the following year, I saw us turn the corner. We didn't win a championship, but I saw us turn the corner. It was a game during I brought all my sophomores up because I had freshmen on JV. I brought them all up to varsity on the second year of me being a head coach, and we were getting beat, but we were shooting 40. We were shooting almost 30 free throws a game, but we couldn't make one.
Wow.
And so I'm like, we can't lose games like this. This is fixable. But we just kept losing. So we end up making the eighth seed in our second year in the playoffs. We lost to a really good 33-0 team in HD Woodson. They had the likes of a kid named Keon Boyd and Durquan Washington, and a couple other guys. And we lost to them. But the following year, I had my son, and he was 1, and I was 33, and we won our first city championship. And that was the first time Wilson won in 33 years.
Wow.
And so a moment for me is that my son has been at all the championship. He's been there every step of the way. He's been around it. In fact, if you were to talk to him today, he would tell you what school he was going to would be Woodrow Wilson High School, which is now Jackson Reed, which is a public school that's nowhere near the vicinity of where we live. But he's grown up on it and saw the success we had, and the players, and the players know him, and they that when he's out there on the circuit with me, he's able to work with them. So that was that moment to win my first championship, to have my son next to me was an incredible feeling. For him to be 1 years old. So I think it all worked out here, and we just continued on that success down the road to win multiple cities and win estates. And in fact, we would go to the state every year after that. We couldn't get past Gonzaga sometimes, and St. John's sometimes, or Sidwell. We lost a few. We lost one we should have won, maybe. A couple buzzer beaters, but it was good basketball. I tell you that it was definitely good basketball. So that's a defining moment for me.
Well, I mean, those leagues are well documented how tough they are out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you talk about DMV basketball just as a whole. It's legendary type stuff, man.
It is.
So I know a lot of people that we have that watch our podcast, listen to our podcast, have been a part of that. One of my mentors, Kevin Sutton, just won't be quiet about the DMV. And so, yeah, man, I can't even imagine to have any kind of success there, win a state championship there. Yeah, that's a big accomplishment. Not only that, you're doing so much there at Wilson. You weren't just, the coach. You weren't just the guy showing up to slam on the floor and, yell at people. You were in the mix of it, in the culture of the school. And there's a lot to be said of that, for coaches to be in the culture of the school, working in the office, collaborating with administration. There's a lot to be said of that. And, I think that's what attributed to a lot of your success too, is that connectivity to other people and making it a collaboration. So yeah, man, that's great stuff. Now I want to ask you, Coach, because was there ever a time in your career where it seemed like it was over and you had to bounce back? Because talk about the championships, you talk about some of the ups and downs. Was there ever a time where it was like, man, I think this is over, and then you had to bounce back?
Absolutely. I actually, the other day, I was typing my name in Google, and the first thing that pops up was the suspension that I got in 2018. We were just coming off winning the state championship in March. We beat a really good St. John's team. We had a really good year. We won 35 games that year out of 40 something. And I mean, we had success. The kids were getting college scholarship offers. Everybody went to school after that. And I remember 8 days later, after I won a championship, I was put on administrative leave for what they called residency concerns. But I know that I don't have anything to do with residency. So I knew it was something else. But I knew that. So when you have success at any place, right, there's always going to be, if you don't do it the way that people think you're supposed to do it, then they'll hate, or they'll think you're doing it wrong. And so a lot of people, I guess I rubbed the wrong way because I did it my way. I did it the way that I thought should be done, which was a process. Like as an assistant coach, I wasn't just like trying to be a head coach. I was learning. I was in the books. I was watching film. I was cutting up film. I was watching every team we played. I watched every head coach, and I took something from them and I added it to my repertoire. And I would constantly say, I'm not worried about what people are doing or saying. I'm worried about what we're doing. And so after we won, there are two kids that transferred into Wilson High School, which is a public school. At the time, Montverde Academy was #1 in the country. I'm talking about they were beating everybody. They had JJ Barrett.
Yeah, RJ Barrett.
Who went to RJ Barrett. I said JJ, sorry. RJ Barrett, who went to, Duke. And the twins, I had the Mitchell twins who ended up transferring to Wilson in March. Came from Montverde Academy to Wilson High School. And everybody's wondering why and how. And I tell people today, it's nothing, I didn't do anything out the normal. I made sure that our school was seeable through social media, through every time we had success or a kid got a college scholarship, we would put it on social media. We would make sure we do interviews. The kids would know how to do interviews, and we would make sure that our page was flooded with them in the highlights of them, even in the classroom stuff. And so I remember they put me for 6 months. I was suspended from March until August. And I didn't know. I was second guessing myself. I didn't know what to do because I'm at home on paid leave, and I'm like, am I coming back? Or I'm talking to my lawyer. I had to get a lawyer, and it was a moment where I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. If this is what is bringing, this is affecting my real livelihood, which work, right? And I have a kid. I have a son. I had a wife at the time. I had a family, and when it starts to affect your real life, basketball, it makes you second guess. It's like, I don't know if I should be. And it wasn't even that it happened. It was the amount of attention it was getting. It was in the USA Today. It was in the New York Times. It was in the Washington Post. It was everywhere. It was all over social media. And because we were just coming off of winning a state championship, and in our area, I had won in honor in the DMV of All Met Coach of the Year, which was out of every coach in the DMV area, which is over like 300 schools. And I had won an award, and it was just like, had success, and now people are trying to tear it down. And so I remember going into the season, I got back, and we actually created a 13 episode docu-series of when I got back, and it sits on YouTube now. It's called Run This Town, and one of my really good friends, Arize, who he produced it, and it was just entailed of everything I had to do after I got back, because it wasn't easy. When you out 6 months, you got all the planning and the summer league stuff and the workouts that you miss, and but what it did do for me was put things into perspective. It gave me time, and I know sometimes when God wants you to slow down, He'll slow you down. He'll show you that you need to slow down, and something is up. So I was able to travel with AAU a lot more. And because I wasn't coaching yet on the circuit, I wasn't on the EYBL yet. I was still just watching, going around, making sure I support my players in the EYBL and Under Armour and Adidas. So I was going to all the different circuits, just making sure that they saw me there, so they know that I was serious about what I said I wanted to do with the kids and make sure that they had some success.
No, it's interesting, man, when you think about how that all unfolded, right? Like, to the degree I experienced that, maybe a lesser degree, where when you do things your own way, people come at you because it's not what we always do. The good old boy system, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what we visionaries like you and myself, we buck those systems, because I'm not going to do it the way you always do it. If the way you do it is the way I want to do it, then I guess we align at that point. However, a lot of things and dreams, goals that I have, they don't align with what everybody else wants to do. So I'm still going to do what I want to do. And that's a good lesson for all coaches to learn, because if you're waiting for somebody's affirmation and approval to do something that is going to impact people in a positive way, whether it's young people, whether it's your family, like you talked about how basketball impacted your life and how was it affecting your life, man, you can't wait for everybody else to say, yeah, do it. That's a great idea. Just do it. if you know it's the right thing, do it, and then let the chips fall where they may. But you followed what it is that you wanted to do, and that's the main thing, man. Is like follow after what it is you want to follow after, and do what you know what's best for you. Now, I want to ask you because you bring up the YBL circuit, and your time on that circuit has been pretty much like kind of like you said, you followed the other circuits, but there's one circuit. What sets it apart from all the others? Because we're ending up the AAU season right now, right? And people are always talking about, well, this year the Pro 16 was great. The Adidas was great. EYBL was great, which is all people always say it is. But what are the comparisons in, and what sets EYBL apart from all the other platforms, Coach?
Well, in my opinion, I started coaching on the UIBL in 2018. I was offered a head coaching position by Wayne Pratt, who is Kevin Durant's father. So I was working with Team Durant. And as always, I make a plan, especially at that level. You want to, like, in our area alone, there's Team Durant, there's Team Takeover, there's Team Mello, there's Boo Williams. And this is all the EYBL teams that are in, I would say, in a 3-hour span of each other. So we were all basically recruiting the same kids.
Yeah.
And the EYBL, just the makeup of it, like the presentation, I'm not saying that other circuits aren't good at all, because they are. But the level of competition when I started on a nightly basis, was second to none. To where, in my opinion, when I was following one of my kids who played for Team Loaded, they were the heavyweights of Adidas. Like at that time, like they were Team Loaded Virginia was like in North Carolina at the time were the heavyweights of Adidas, and they had everybody. And I'm like, but they're not playing. Like when I watch some of their games, I'm like, wow, this is a 30-point blowout. I mean, I know they're good, but that doesn't make sense. And so, when even because Under Armour was also at that time, they had DC Premier, which a lot of my kids were on that team that were at high school too. So I still had to coach EYBL, but I also had to make sure that I saw those guys too. And I used to just watch, and I'm like, on a nightly basis, night in and night out, every team on the EYBL was loaded with talent, like every one of them. And like if you didn't plan the right way or watch film or have your scouting report or make sure you practiced when you were on the road and, you were there a day early, like you had to be mentally prepared to play on the EYBL. And we went, my first year, we went in with 8. We had all guards. Like I had Rodney Rice, who's now at USC, Jordan Hawkins, who's in the NBA now with the Pelicans, Jalen Worley, who's at Gonzaga, Dave Brown, who just finished up at Loyola. I had some really, really good players, and we were all on the same team. And so my job was to make sure they were in the right place. But I was able to have some success with them our first year. I stayed with Durant for 3 years, where I was the 16 head coach for 2 years. And then I was the 15U head coach. And then I took a break after that because it was becoming high school to AAU. It was just becoming overwhelming. But the EYBL, I mean, it's just, like I said, night in and night out. It's the coaching level. I would say the coaching level is top notch. Like some of the teams, like if you look on paper, you're like, all right, this team has five stars, right? And this team has none. This team may have 1, but somehow it's a 2-point game. And I tell people all the time, like, you got to have your stuff together if you want to coach on the EYBL. I see a lot of young coaches now are coming or be given an opportunity to coach on the EYBL because they've been coaching on the made hoop circuit, right? Which was underneath the EYBL for a while. And now they have the junior EYBL, but they were coaching there. So they were given opportunity to follow those kids up. And now they get to see on the EYB as well as the EYBL, like what it really is, because EYBL is only 17s, right? So 15
Yeah.
to 16s is just EYB. And I watched some of the strategic planning that goes into it, and like I said, night in and night out, all the coaches I've talked to that coach, everybody wants in. Everybody,
Yeah.
loves what is going on, not just the gear, but the level of coaching, like the challenging. I would say that for me, in my opinion, because the other circuits are not bad, that the EYBL is like playing chess every
Mm.
night. Like you
Wow.
go to, I think it was a movie. You go to the park and you sit there, and if you win, you stay there, and then another good player comes in and sits down and plays against you, and that's just how it was on the nightly. I mean,
Yeah.
the games we played against, like we would play takeover, and we would be in Kansas City, but we would play takeover. Durant would play takeover, and the gym would be packed like we were at home.
Yeah.
And that is just the level. I mean, level of it was just amazing. But also through, going to how they do their camps, the NBA. I mean, sorry, the Elite 100 that was in
Yeah.
St. Louis every year. Worked that for like 3 or 4 years, bringing all those kids together. And then I was able to go to the academy, which was out in California at the Mamba Center. And watch the way that they handle all the players and make sure that they, the teaching was there from NBA players, former NBA players, college players were there. The NBA pros would come in and play during those camps. It was just the setup of everything just aligned with what my vision was. So
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah. When they talk about there's levels to this, right? And those levels for that, I guess for high school basketball, right?
Mhm.
You see how it interacts with, you said, like the pro players, former pro players, college players, like they're all intertwined in one way, shape, or form. And those platforms like that allow for that to happen, where maybe that doesn't happen in every platform, but that one does. That's why then people think about, well, it just gets a lot of run because you said, like, for the gear, like that sweatshirt you're wearing. Yeah, man, everybody would love a fly sweatshirt like that, right? But there's so much
Right.
more to it. There's so much more to it than just the panache of saying, like, hey, I know Tony Dorado, I know so and so, right? Like dropping names, but the reality of the situation is you got to go earn stuff. It's one thing to get there; it's another thing to stay there. And
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
that's what people got to understand as well. Because everybody wants to get there, but then they don't work hard to stay. So
It's not
it,
for everybody.
yeah,
It's
I
not for
appreciate you breaking
everybody.
it down. Yeah, not at all. Now I want to ask you, Coach, what do you consider success? And seeing that you've had it, and that even right now, as you're pushing forward now, what is it that you consider success as a former player, as a coach, and as a leader of men?
For me, success is just for me, because it can be defined by everybody defines it differently.
Yeah,
But the fact that I get up and help youth every day and possibly change their circumstances in life is really what I measure success on. Especially in the sports world. Like I have a son who's 9 who is watching. Watching
yeah,
what kids do, watching how they work out. He's on TikTok and Instagram, and he's watching workouts and he's watching what they do. And to know that I've had a hand in some of these kids, not everybody, but some of the kids, to get where they're at, whether it be the college level or the pro level or overseas or whatever, it it's really, when I see kids and they're able to come back and tell their stories just the same way I was to kids who are trying to make it, because this day and age, I mean, it's changed so much that
yeah,
you know defining success for a young person today is I'm going to the NBA in 2 years.
mm,
That's But what is in between you doing that? You have to eat right, you have to work out, you also have to take care of your body, you have to sleep, you have to make sure that you're around the right people, because I've seen a lot of stories where they're supposed to be there and then
yeah,
they don't end up making it there.
yeah,
Because the trend says that success is social media now.
yeah,
Whatever social media says is what people are going to do. But for me, like when I get to talk to a Jordan Hawkins or a Najee Marshall, like Najee was at Wilson for 10 days, right? He was at 10 days when I was assistant coach, and it was, to see him now is, with with the Mavericks, it's like, like, hey, you remember this, or you talk to these kids, or, like he has an event coming up on August 3rd, and he's giving back to the community about mental health and how basketball. It's, to see some of the stuff that I see, and I can go on for days with kids, but that's the way that I measure it. Not by off any accolades that I receive, but because a lot of coaches like to they like to throw their resume around and say, well, I've done this and I've done this and I've did this. And I was watching a podcast recently with some coaches who, because I took over a sports academy. This will be my first year there. But I took it over and, I developed a plan. And sometimes when you develop plans in the background and you put it out there to the public, it's going to naturally draw people.
Yeah.
And, drawing people, sometimes people don't like it. And, I hear a lot of success being about development and this, and the third. And I'm like, no, my success is based off of how a kid becomes a young man or, a young lady, for whatever it is. Yeah. If they can be in this world and they can have success in whatever their goals are, then I've done my part. And that's how I define it at this moment.
That's fantastic, man. I mean, that's the bread and butter of what, coaching is taking young people from one place and take them to a different spot that's for the betterment of their well-being, their families, whether it's mentally or even physically. That tool that we use, sports, basketball in particular, really helps us to get that done. Well, man, I really appreciate you breaking it down like that. It's great stuff. Now, mentorship. How important has mentorship been for you in your career? Because I believe every coach needs a mentor too, not just in the space of basketball, but their personal lives or in the business of basketball, whatever that is. How important has mentorship been for you, Coach?
Well, as we spoke earlier, me even coming into the basketball world, somebody helped me. And it wasn't by design, but it happened, right? And so, I think every mentor needs a mentor. And so in every aspect of your life, it could be different. Some people are there to help you with the basketball world, and some people are there to be, in the spiritual world or the finance world. It's different mentors for different things. And as I told you, Andre Williams was the one that introduced me to basketball, but he also was one of my best friend, was part of me becoming, because I was 24 years old when I became a coach. And I think he was 32 or something like that. He's a little bit older than me. But, he took me under his wing and showed me the ropes and didn't just throw me to the wolves, and then, even going into where Jamal James was, where he sat in the EYBL, he didn't have to reach back down and say, hey, I want to see you have some success. And if I can help in any way, here, do this, or, hey, come to this camp, or, hey, look at this, or let's watch this together, or, let's do a different, let's talk about some things. We don't just talk about, just basketball. We were talking about life. And those friendships developed through certain things. But mentorship was the main part. And that's partly why I do what I do today. Mentorship is, if there was no mentorship, I wouldn't be a coach. Or if there was no mentorship, I wouldn't be. I would say all coaches need mentors. And I'm watching some of the coaches come up and they're getting into the coaching game and they're doing it the wrong way. And, they're not asking for help. They're not, I'm watching how they go about, they despise other coaches, or they hate other coaches, or they want what other coaches have and they won't do the work. And in this game, if you don't do the work, it's going to show, because when you get in tight games as a coach, how you keep your team calm, how you prepare, what plays do you have in your, what adjustments can you make? And a lot of times the coaches can't do it. And so, but I know it's because they won't ask for help. For instance, I talk to a lot of older coaches, I won't call them older, they're my age, but we came up through the coaching realms together. When I became a head coach, I would constantly be on the phone with them, all the time, and we still talk today, and we talk about old times and how it's changed, and mentorship is only seen as an adult helping a kid, but adults can help adults,
Yeah.
and we don't do it enough. But also, I think that it's not extended enough, right? So,
Yeah.
like myself, I have a ton of coaching experience, but I also have a ton of life experience that I can give
Yeah.
to some of these young coaches. In which why my staff at Bethel Sports Academy it's a bunch of former players who are younger than
Yeah.
me, and I put them in place to challenge them because maybe one day they want to be a coach or they
Yeah.
just want to be a mentor in general.
Yeah.
And I watch the way and I teach them about what their social media looks like, how they talk to parents, how they approach the game. Like how when you're recruiting a player, there are certain ways to do it. You can't if you do it negatively, it's going to come back and it's going to be bad. But mentorship is the biggest thing for me. It's always been about mentorship. It's never been about me. And now if anything comes from that that I can benefit from, then hey, it's there. But as far as like I said, we talked about success and they both to me, they both go together for me.
Yeah.
Because I see them, I see how their parents' lives have changed. I see their parents now, and I'm like, you look stress free. And that's the goal because as parents, when we're raising our kids, we are extremely high stress all the time about success and what it looks like and things like that. So that's what it looks like that's what mentorship wouldn't be. I wouldn't be a coach today if we didn't have that.
Yeah. No, that's great, man. And I appreciate you saying that because those things they matter, especially when you kind of already touched on my next question about the next generation of coaches and how to prepare them. And a lot of those keys are really important on how to, lean on other coaches, ask questions. Asking questions is kind of hard for those of us who think we have to have all the answers. Like in your role as a head coach of a new program, and you're having to recruit, all over the country for players, things of that nature. So like people think, well, this guy has it together because he's doing all that, so he must know everything. But there's times where you don't know everything, and you got to ask questions. And so I think young coaches have to learn ask questions, and that can't be just about slobs and blobs and all that stuff. It can be about how am I, like you said, your social media. How am I working with parents? Because if you don't know by now as a coach that whether you're coaching college or high school, you're not just coaching that kid or middle school. You're coaching that family too, in a way.
Mhm.
You're going to have to deal with that. And that dynamic is always going to be there. So learn how to do that. And I think helping young coaches do that is really, really important now. And mentorship, yeah, it goes to that. It speaks to that. Now I want to ask you about what you've learned about yourself in your career because we're constantly trying to teach young people how, young men in particular, right? How to be men and things of that nature. But what have you learned about yourself throughout your career, coach?
Uh, I learned throughout my coaching career that I was not as patient as I thought I was. When I first got into my coaching career, I was the most impatient person as some of the young coaches are now today, because I wanted instant success. I'm like, what? The math is winning everything, and they have all the kids, and Nike is giving them everything, and I wanted all of that at one time. And it took some of my mentors who, when I'm discussing some of the stuff, they weren't just like, you can't have it. They were like, you got to work for it.
Yeah,
And so the game it's a nasty place. It can
yeah,
be, but it also could be a peaceful place. And
yeah,
so when I used to walk into gyms, you know, I would walk in with my head held high because I knew I was doing it the right way. There was
yeah,
no, I think in my career, I've had one family that transferred out of my program. And, because I'm constantly worried about, not worried, but making sure that they're equipped with how this works. Like when you have success, if you have good players, people are going to recruit them. And if they're not doing their job.
yeah,
And if I've done my job, then I don't have anything to worry about unless he just has outgrown the program. But in my years of coaching, I've learned that when this starts, it's just like playing the game. When it slows down for you and you can see, then it just becomes even you just constant learning. For me, the learning process I'm still today still learning. I was assistant coach for the last 2 years at Bishop McNamara High School, and I was also assistant coach with Team Mello. And I put myself under guys one place where I had more coaching experience than the entire staff, and another place where I could learn from someone, because you're never too old to learn. And that's part of what I've learned today is that if I ever become too old to learn this game or continue on, then I need to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And those are like the biggest two things that I've learned throughout my coaching career is that just remaining patient, and when things don't look good, they will be good. Because again, you just have to be patient. The rush things. I was at a private school called National Christian, and I got it in March, and I immediately got 15 kids. And then by the time I got to August, more kids were calling. And they were like, hey, we want to come here. We like what you're doing. We know what you do. And I couldn't take them because I had rushed the process. You can't rush the process
Yeah.
in any of this. And so me being resilient and just being patient and just taking my time with it has worked a lot of things out for me in some of the success that we've had at Bethel already. So those
That's
are some
great,
of the things.
Coach. I like what you said about things slowing down. I mean, we see the best players; things are slowing down for them. So
Yep.
they're making plays. They're doing things that everybody's like, man, that player is so good. How are they doing that? Because everything's slow for them. They've
Yes.
learned they've learned the speed, and they've gotten faster than the speed than everybody else, so to speak.
Hmm.
And so, as coaches, things need to slow down. Like, oh, I got to worry about scheduling. Oh, I got to worry about the referees. Oh, I got to worry about the parents and appeasing the best player, and making sure that they feel good about themselves. And everybody, like, let things slow down. Let them happen in a way that you designed it. Like you said, always putting out a plan. You said it multiple times. I made a plan. I made a plan. Coaches have to make plans. If you don't make plans, you know, what is it? What's that saying go? If you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. You
Right.
know,
You plan to fail.
yeah, and
Hmm.
you cannot do that. And I think that's the best advice and things that we can learn throughout this journey as coaches, because so many people are looking at us, man. Even I don't care what level you're coaching at. There's people looking at you for answers. And if you don't have the answers, where are you going to find them? And if you don't know where to find them, then you're going to lie your way out of it. And nobody will trust you after that, right? And so, that's it. You're out, And so, yeah, character matters.
Interesting. It was interesting, and I mean, it was interesting because you say that, right? And I was in a gym recently, and a coach walked up to me. He's a assistant coach at one of the high Cardoza High School. They won DC this year,
Hmm.
first time like a long time. And he came up to me. He said, "I got to thank you." I said, "Thank me for what?" I said, "What I do today," because a lot of coaches are like, they don't like the way I do things. And he was like, "Coach, I went back and reviewed the film from when you won your championships, and I saw the zone that you put in, and we used it in the championship game, and we beat because they played my team, my former high school that I used to coach
Yeah,
at in the championship, and they beat them." And he was like, "Man, this zone worked. At first, I thought it was this, but then after really watching it, it was something else. And how did you put?" And so it was like it made me think, like, wow, people are really paying attention. And this
yeah.
was years ago that you had to go find this film from years ago to really see what I did with that zone to win some championships with it. So it was interesting to hear that. I've just
Yeah.
recalled that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, uh, people, you just you never know how you're gonna make them feel with
Mhm.
what you're doing, because everybody has feelings about whatever, right? Like you're saying, you do things differently, so people have kind of a perception of who you are, but that doesn't mean they don't like it. That just means they don't like when you're doing it against them sometimes, right? And so
Absolutely.
they'll go back. I mean, like all coaches do, we all steal from each other, and so
Absolutely.
you got to really be very mindful of that. The good and the bad of it, because there's some bad of it that, man, you just really don't want to let off that vibe and that lack of character show up, right? So you work on it. Now, I want to ask you, Coach, about your support system. How important has that been for you? Because you talk about some of the tough times in your coaching career, and the different movement from here to there, just like every coach does. No, most coaches don't stay in the same spot for very long, especially when you're dealing. I'm gonna put it this way because I've dealt with high level high school athletes. It's hard to stay at one place when you're trying to build programs like that because everybody comes at you, right? So knowing that, how important has your support system been?
I mean, it's second to none. Like it's the amount of time that I spend on the phone with Osman Bangura, who when he took over as athletic director at Bethel Sports Academy, he had been talking to me about it. We talk almost like every morning. We'll like driving to work, we'll just jump on the phone and talk about life. And we'll talk about sports and what kid is moving there, or what we heard today, or what's going on there. So talking to him, he always remember what I did and how I do things. And so when the job came open, or when he took over, he knew that he wanted me to have the job. And so he recruited me. He recruited me for a while. And I didn't even know he was recruiting me, to be honest. I thought that I was like, I'm not going to leave where I'm at. We just went through a couple years at Bishop McNamara, and, we got, Caden Samuels, who's a 5-star, and Prince Moody, who's 4-star, and Brandon. We had this year, we had a really good team at Bishop McNamara. But we had to put in a lot of work with those kids. And so, he was one of the guys that just stuck with me. Like there's some people who have, I won't say crossed me, but they've made me look at them differently. In the light, especially when it comes to basketball, and coaches are supposed to be supporting other coaches and helping other coaches, and not just using coaches, right? Because
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who use you up and then they just kind of get rid of you.
yeah.
And so, the support system in my household, as well as Oz, as well as a couple of my other friends, is second to none. I mean, it's no basketball without them, because everything doesn't. Sometimes I'm frustrated with how slow sometimes I have to wait and be patient, and I need to vent. You can't vent to everybody, right? And
Yeah.
so being able to have someone to really communicate with about it and really give you good sound advice, because everybody doesn't give sound advice, has been overly important to my success in the coaching space today.
That's great, coach. Yeah, not every feedback is good feedback either. I think
Mhm.
because there's some people that will give you feedback based on where they want to manipulate you
Absolutely.
to a degree, and because even though somebody's smiling in your face, they might stab you in the back the next second, and that's human nature. And so we have to
Yeah.
understand that. And when it can't destroy us, it can only help us to start kind of making our circle a little bit smaller. So that helps. That helps at the end of the day.
Yes, it does.
So, coach, I want to
Absolutely.
ask you, what's your why? Why do you do what you do? Because you've been doing it now for a good while. Why
Yeah.
do you coach? Why do you work with young people? Why do you do what you do, coach?
I always say to myself, I don't want kids to relive what I had to live. Growing up in Philadelphia, single parent home with three brothers who we didn't know where our next meal was coming from. And so I decided that when I got into the coaching space, that my story was the story. And I wasn't going to let kids, where I was in the District of Columbia, DC.
Mhm.
It was always a story. It was a kid who was so worried about what he was wearing, or what he didn't eat, or how he was going to eat. And it always hit me like, wow, what? And then, through the summer programs of how they were going to, all the kids nowadays, they want the flyest and the newest sneakers, and how we were going to get them, and this and that. And the stories that they would tell me, I'm like, it's not going to, that's not the way to do it. Because I've done it. I know what it's like to have one pair of shoes for 4 years. I also know what it's like to eat the same thing for a year straight, and not change at all. And so part of why I stay in it is to make sure that if I can affect just one person, because I still work in DC as I work at Ballou High School as a coordinator, and I create plans for students who need support. And it goes into the basketball world as well. The same thing. I'm creating a plan for you, and will it change? Absolutely. But I'll be there to help you when it changes. Every path isn't narrow, but we can make it. We can make things happen. So I stay in it because I don't want to see kids go through that. I don't want to. I make sure that I don't just like the kids that I coach. We don't just go into the gym. Like what's happening off the court? Like what's going on at home? Like, what are you watching? Like, do you play video games? Can we play the video game together? Those type of things are the type of relationships that I want to have with them because they have to trust me in order for me to do my job. And if they don't trust me, then I'm not going to be able to do my job. And so I find ways, again, I speak about chess, you find ways to win. And winning a kid over is the biggest thing for me. And not just, winning them over, because sometimes their parents will say the same thing that I say, and somehow they listen to me, but they won't listen to the parent. And it just doesn't, but I know why, right? Because we're more patient with them, right? We're not demonstrative, right? We don't have to be the disciplinarian all the time. While we still are, we don't have to be all the time as parents do. I'm taking this away, or you're not getting your allowance, so you didn't take out the trash, or you didn't clean your room. While we still talk about the same things, like, look, why don't you just clean your room? Like, and they give me the real, I didn't want to. Well, you can't say that to your parents, So again, it's give and take with this, and relationship building is the biggest thing of why I stay in it. It gives me joy to sit back sometimes and watch the kids play on TV, right? And their character just like comes out of the screen at me, and like it says, I came up the right way. I may have had some circumstances that weren't, in my favor at the time, but I worked through it with the support system, and I came out, on top of one of my goals.
Yeah, no, that's really important what you're talking about. Like when we work with young people, trying to understand them isn't always the easiest thing. But to get their trust is a must. Like, got to get that. They won't, the proverbial running through the wall, right? We always hear about that. Like, they run through a wall for me. If they don't know you, they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
Absolutely.
And if they don't trust you and you don't build with them, they don't matter. It does not matter. You'll just be a talking head and an authority figure. They're going to compare you to their mom or their dad, whichever one is the disciplinary in their life. And they're just going to discard you and be like, yeah, give me the ball. And I think they listen to us sometimes more than their parents because they want that ball in their hand. We have something they want. And that's the only time they're good. Man, I have 4 daughters, right? And I have, my youngest is 11. So the other ones, I've had them at teenage age. And so I know what it's like to hear it say like, Ali, I'm telling you over and over again, you're not listening. But when they want something, they listen. When they want something, they comply. When they need something, Dad, I need this. And then, man, miracles take place, right? It's like walking on water. But yeah, it's so important, though, that building those relationships. And coaches, if you don't like building relationships, that's what this whole life is about.
Absolutely.
The day you're not here, the only thing you take with you is those relationships. You don't take anything else with you. So it's so important. Build relationships because that's all you take with you. Anyways, that's what I'm taking from what you're saying, and it just firing me up, man. Because to hear somebody else's why can help reinforce my why and other people's why.
Absolutely.
And it's pure. It's pure. Man, I think about God's plan for my life, and then you're talking about I have a plan for this kid, and I have a plan for that kid. And I'm thinking, if this gentleman has a plan for kids, just imagine the plans I can have for other people too. When I know the plan for my life is set, right? It should be easy at the end of the day, in theory, right? We just got to get to doing the work. So yeah, man, I appreciate everything you said, man. It was a lot, and it really brought me to a place of like self-reflection. So now my last question, Coach, is the question I ask every coach, and you're still young, man. You're only 3 years younger than me, so you're really young. And so you got a long time left in this game coaching. But what would you want to be said of you when your time in this game is all said and done?
I would want them to say that, hey, he did it his way, but he did it the right way. And I think that's how I'm defined currently, because I can still walk in a room with the best of them and come out and stand on all 10 of my toes in the coaching world. And I do things, and I'm always thinking of other people first. I have coaches meetings, and my coaches are like, "Why are we meeting again?" Because we need to. I need to show you that these are the things that are important. This is what colleges are doing. They meet every day. So I think that is what I want them to say when I do decide to leave this game. I don't know when that is, because I felt like I was getting out, but now I feel like I'm being reeled back in. Every time there's one kid goes off, there's another kid that comes in. And it's important for me to know that they're being handled the right way. Because watching the young men that are coming up, this is an outlet for them. This is how they escape life, in a sense, by going on the court. And if they can learn and do things the right way, and me constantly learning and giving and pouring back into them, and that's how I want to be defined, when I do decide to leave the coaching world, as that kids were happy and kids were successful, and kids have made something of their lives when they left Coach Hernandez's coaching experience.
Coach Hernandez, I appreciate you so much, brother. I really do. It's been great. Here again, just you kind of running down your responses and the things that you've said have helped me to reflect even on myself and why I do what I do every day as far as my approach to this game and how I'm coaching. And I think everybody else who's watching and listening can take that too. So here again, man, thank you for the time that you spent with us today, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.